Hi, everyone. This is Father Tom Soroka, and we are here today to talk a little bit about the new catechism program that is being developed by the Orthodox Church in America, by the departments of the Orthodox Church in America. It's a very exciting time in the departments because we are creating a lot of new resources. And so today's topic is very important to me because I feel like as a priest, I need some support. I need help. I need a way, a kind of a systematic way in which to approach and train and disciple new people that come into the parish, new Orthodox Christians that don't have maybe a lot of experience or a lot of knowledge. Certainly, I can take a book and say, hey, read this, and then we can talk about it. But the reality is I may not know everything. So I want to be able to give them the best possible experience. But before we do that, I would like to invite, I see the numbers are rising in our broadcast right now. I'd like to invite you just to let us know that you're here. Type in the comments where you're from and let us know that you can hear everything okay. I'm excited to talk to everybody about this particular topic. It's really important that we be able to develop the resources that parishes need, that people need. So let me know where you are viewing from right now. What part of the country are you viewing from? Let us know your parish. Also, if you are listening right now, you can share out this particular link to your Facebook. You can also view us on YouTube. And if you go to oca.org/live, you will be able to see everything that we're doing right now. So thank you. Hi, Becky from New Jersey. We have Sean from Columbus. We have Ionut, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, from Romania. Wow, bless you. It's so wonderful to have you here. And Becky says she's from St. Peter and Paul. Oh, I love Father James. He's great. Peter is from Connecticut. Wonderful. Sean from St. Gregory Parish. Wonderful. Very, very good to have you all here. May God bless you for listening in. So remember, share out this program right now. You can share this link live onto your Facebook, or you can share the YouTube stream that we have right now. And remember, you can always go to oca.org/live. We hope to make these a regular part of our ministry at the Orthodox Church in America to be able to chat with you. And today we're going to have a guest come in a few minutes, Dr. Edith Humphrey, who is a beloved biblical scholar and teacher and speaker and writer to the Orthodox Church, to the entire Orthodox Church. She has lent her intellectual and spiritual gifts to the church. And we are blessed that she is a part of so many good things that are happening in the Orthodox Church. She travels around the country, speaking in various places. She's written tremendous books and articles that are very, very important for us as Orthodox Christians. So let's talk a little bit about the topic for today. Today we are going to talk about the idea of a catechesis program. And we want to know, what kind of catechetical program do you have for new catechumens, for inquirers and catechumens that are coming into the Orthodox Church? What do you do with them? How do you train them? How do you make sure that you are giving them all of the information and the formation that they need? Because this is not just about information, right? We're not just teaching our new catechumens doctrine. We're teaching them how to be Orthodox. Are we teaching them not only information about the faith? Are we teaching them how to pray? Are we teaching them how to fast? How to come to church? The importance of the various aspects of our faith that sometimes are overlooked. We might hope that they are catching these things by viewing other people. However, sometimes priests can't remember everything. Priests can't do everything. Although I will admit, there are some tremendous programs that are happening out in the Orthodox Church in America. But for parishes and priests that maybe don't have the resources to be able to create their own programs, we want to ensure that every parish has a program that they can simply pick up, that they can train their catechetical teachers, their catechists, their teachers, their priests, the clergy, to be able to have a robust program for the catechesis of new converts into the Orthodox faith. So with that, I have invited my dear friend, Dr. Edith Humphrey, who is going to talk a little bit about a new program that is being developed right now in the Orthodox Church in America as a free resource that will be available, God willing, I would say within maybe the next 2 or 3 months, maybe sooner, who knows, so that every parish and every person can go through this course. With that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Edith Humphrey. Dr. Edith, welcome to our conversation today. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me, Father Tom. This is such an important thing to be talking about and to be involved with.
It really is. And, you are a convert to the Orthodox faith.
I am.
I'm not asking you this to cast aspersions on anyone, but many times you have also said that you felt like your catechetical program was lacking in a certain sense. Can you tell me about your thoughts about why is a strong catechesis important? And what were the things that maybe you were missing?
So I had been an inquirer for 13 years.
Wow.
Before I decided to take the plunge and talk to the parish priest who had become very dear to our family here in Pittsburgh. And I think it was assumed because I had spent such a long time doing all the theological and historical research that I was ready. And I'm sure in my mind I was, but there were many things about Orthodoxy that I did not understand in terms of it being on the ground. And so I hadn't really sat through a whole year of liturgies. I had been going back and forth between Orthodox parish and my Anglican parish, and I did that right up until the Sunday that I left and was chrismated. And so I didn't understand really practically things about, say, the fast.
Right.
I had some intellectual idea of the cycle of feasts and so on, but I hadn't actually seen them unfold in a natural way before my eyes because I had been going back and forth. And so that was something that I really did need to work hard on understanding the first year that I was, I didn't even really know about the Apostles' Fast, for example. I suppose I'd missed that. So
Sure.
It took some time and to understand the reasons for these things and to understand how they help us in spiritual walk. All that was new to me.
Yeah, and it sounds like it may also be helpful in a catechetical program to have someone that maybe you're paired with as an inquirer or as a catechumen, so that in the formal classroom situation, sometimes, again, and coming from the standpoint of a priest, I can't remember everything. I want to make sure that I want to meet people where they're at, and I want to be able to fill in the gaps. I don't want to bore them with information that they already know, but sometimes it's also important to say, hey, you need to be paired with someone that can help you through this journey, Do you feel like that might be helpful also in a catechetical program?
I do. I mean, sometimes those things happen naturally as someone is getting to know people in the parish. But I think that, for example, our sponsor, our godmother or godfather, often that's just a formality, somebody who will be praying for you. Yes. So it's not formal in the sense of being artificial, but you're not that's not necessarily the person that is going to help you best to move into Orthodoxy in a concrete way. And so maybe a little bit more time taken with regards to who's going to be the sponsor would be helpful. Maybe that could be that person, or it could be somebody other than the sponsor. But I do think that there are people besides the priest in the parish and in the Orthodox community, if you're living in a larger area, that could be of help.
Right, right. Just to let you know, some of the listeners are hearing that sort of tinny sound. Sounds like it's going down now, so maybe we're okay.
Okay.
But I think we're okay at this point. All right. So let's talk a little bit about, now we have some questions already that are coming in from our viewers, very specific questions. So like Manolo, I want you to hold on with your question there. We'll get to that in a second. And then Peter, I promise we'll get to your question in a second. I want to talk about the program that we are building in the Orthodox Church in America for everyone's use as a catechetical program. Now, you know, I'm the project manager, so I kind of know all the details. But if you could just at a very high level describe for our viewers how we divided these topics and how we are approaching them. I will say there are, and I apologize to everyone, I'm going to read off the names of the authors before you do that, Dr. Humphrey. Sure. So we have, these are the writers, dear listeners, that are going to be writing and are writing chapters. Father Daniel Greason, Father Justin Frederick, Father Jacob Van Sickle, Bert Walter, Father Lawrence Farley, Father John Cox, Dr. Edith Humphrey, Father Joseph Lucas, and Father John Catolic, and Brian Van Sickle. I think that's everybody. So the way this is being divided is there are 16 chapters. There are 16 at least 1 hour or 90-minute sessions that there is going to be a kind of various topics that are addressed. So at this point, Dr. Humphrey, pick it up and talk about how we are approaching it, because it was really your idea how we're approaching this.
Oh dear, was it really? It better work then. So we did a lot of brainstorming at the beginning, those of us who Father Tom contacted to be involved in this project. And we had down all the various topics that we thought needed to be handled in a full catechesis, not just topics having to do with what we would learn intellectually, but also topics having to do with how to live in the church and how to grow. And as we're considering, it seemed good to some of us that we could use the Divine Liturgy itself as the framework upon which we would hang topics, because in the Divine Liturgy, we really have a microcosm to about everything that we need to know to be Orthodox. When we drill into the various parts of it very carefully and see their connection with worship, with life, with the holy tradition, with the scriptures. And so we've divided it, as Father said, into 16 sections going sequentially through the Divine Liturgy. Under the preparation or prosthesis, we talk about Old Testament, talk about various references that are found in Vespers and Matins. We talk about the birth of Christ and a little about a sacrifice, though that's going to be dealt with more in the anaphora as well.
Exactly.
The church itself and the temple. And then going into the great litany, we talk about the kingdom of God and peace and what it is to enter the kingdom, how it is to have an Orthodox worldview, relations with others in prayer.
Yeah, let me stop you there, because that was, as you alluded to previously, that was one of the very important aspects of this catechesis, and that is developing an Orthodox worldview, an Orthodox perspective, phronema, right? This idea of trying to think in an Orthodox manner and see things in an Orthodox manner. So what we're really trying to do in this catechism is be able to not only give information, but develop a way of seeing the world.
Mm-hmm. So as we say, blessed is the kingdom, the question is, what are we entering into, and how is the world related to that? And what is specific about our seeing things with the eyes of Christ?
Right, exactly.
So then we go on, and the person who's writing on the antiphons will talk about God and about Jesus, that is God's energies, and Jesus is the only begotten Son. Then in terms of the troparion of the day, what the Christian life is like, and the Beatitudes, and then talked also about the Psalms being the prayer book of the church, which is just so important, as we've seen, for example, with Father Reardon's wonderful book on Christ in the Psalms.
Right. And so I want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not teaching the Divine Liturgy.
No.
What we are teaching is all of Orthodoxy, and using the Divine Liturgy as a way to prompt topics, because we felt like everything that needed to be said was somehow included in the Divine Liturgy.
This reminds me actually of the procedure that C.S. Lewis suggests to his friend Malcolm, that you could use the Lord's Prayer as a kind of a clothes horse upon which to festoon, hang the prayers of your community and your own personal prayers. And so we're doing the same kind of thing with the Divine Liturgy, pulling the whole of what it is to be Orthodox, how you think, how you act, how you are together, how you are in the world, and assigning them to various logical places in the Divine Liturgy.
Exactly.
In the little entrance, the instructor is going to talk about, as prompted by the little entrance, going to talk about the importance of worship. Psalm 95, come let us worship, the liturgical year, the daily cycle, something that I dearly would have liked to have known more about before I took the plunge.
Yeah, and I think also it's important when we talk about the daily cycle is that this may encourage people to come to more daily services. you know, in other words,
they're missing out if they don't. They're missing
right. Orthodoxy is so rich in this particular aspect that we somehow miss the idea that there are other services, and there are services having all the time. So, Dr. Humphrey, before we go on, let's do this. One reason why we're having these discussions, and again, I want all of our viewers to just hang in there, because I want to address your comments. They are coming in, and I'm very grateful for that. So please stay with us. And again, share out this link right now so that other people can listen. What is also important is, and now you are a lay person, you obviously you're not you're not supported financially by the church. However, in order to develop these things, there is a financial aspect involved. And so part of our task here is to encourage people to become stewards of the Orthodox Church in America. And by stewards, we mean to give a gift that would help support ministries like this, that would help continue support the development of new resources, new catechetical material, new Sunday school material, new music, all kinds of resources and programs that we can do. So can you give us an idea, as a theologian, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, what does the Bible have to say about giving towards godly things?
So we have both an Old Testament standard of 10%, and then we have a New Testament standard of Christ giving everything. It's a movement from seeing part of what you are and giving that to God and feeling that an obligation is over, a movement from that to understanding that everything that we have and are belongs to God. And so it is from within that the Holy Spirit speaks and tells us what concretely we can give besides simply our devotion and our adoration. St. Paul says when he's talking about the collection that he's taking for the poor in Jerusalem, and he's talking to the Gentiles, whom he says owe a debt to these Christians because it's from them that the gospel first came. He says that every person should decide ahead in their own mind how much they're going to give and lay that aside as a first fruit, not just have that be something that's added on to the end once you get everything else in order. And that should be your sacrifice of love for the benefit of others, but also, of course, for God, who loves us all.
Indeed. And this, the idea that you spoke about as a sacrifice of love, in providing these resources, I think the motivation for the church is to do this out of love for our parishes, love for our priests, love for our faithful, because we want them to have the resources that they need. We want parishes. This is a very important part of my ministry. I want parishes to be successful. As I said with Father Alexander Rentel on the previous live stream on Monday, there is no OCA without parishes, period. The OCA is not some kind of independent organization. It is the church made up of her local parishes. And so we want to be able to serve those parishes, but in order to do that, we do need that financial support. It's very, very important. All right, so let's go through some of the comments and questions here. And again, if you have any questions for Dr. Humphrey, and we have a rare opportunity for a world-renowned biblical scholar to put her on the spot here. And so let's see how we can test her knowledge and tap into her beautiful knowledge and wisdom. All right, so here's a little bit of a tough one here, Dr. Humphrey, and it might be even a little bit controversial. Manolo says, what happens when catechumens ask about Father Seraphim Rose and toll houses, the interpretation of Old Testament stories, etc., etc.? These become points of fiction and debate in Catechism of Orthodoxy between catechumens and clergy. I have my thoughts about that. Why don't you talk?
So I want to jump to the second sentence first, because that should be less controversial. We do have an apostolic way for reading the Old Testament that was taught to the apostles by Jesus. We see this on the road to Emmaus, and we see it in the upper room when Jesus goes to the law and the prophets and the writings, the Psalms, and shows them how these things speak of him. And that actually is the burden of the podcast blog that I do twice a month, trying to show how the Old Testament illuminates New Testament theology, teaching passages. And I don't think that this should be controversial. I think that if we are reading in the light of the apostles and the fathers, we're going to be able to fasten on those things in the Old Testament that really do show Christ. That doesn't mean that we don't want to know the other things as well, all the history and that's very important. But in terms of formation of people, how those prepared for Christ, how those foreshadowed Christ, how those were typologically, and also the ongoing ethical constraints of the Old Testament, where they were ratified by the apostles and by the Lord. So that's complex, but I don't think it's controversial.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And Manolo may be speaking about if there is the idea of, let's say, a 6-day creation. I think this might be
Okay. Yes.
a literal 24-hour,
read.
6-day creation.
Yeah.
And the fathers, to me, speak in different ways about this, and they're coming at it from their sort of understanding from the 8th, 9th century.
And we can get a variation among the fathers, even in terms of how they understood the fall to take place and how soon after the creation and so on. So I think that with maturity, people can start to see the breadth of the fathers and see where they speak in unison and harmony, and see places where there may be some outlier opinions that we should be aware of, but don't necessarily have to dogmatize, nor should we.
Great.
One of the things that I loved about Orthodoxy is that there is not a dogmatization of everything, as there seems to be more in Roman Catholicism. And I think that speaks to your first question about the toll houses, that there's a variety of response to that teaching in Orthodoxy. And I think a mature Orthodox is not going to point fingers at those who think differently about them on that, but that know that whether one thinks in terms of toll houses or whether one thinks that was one particular way of looking at things, important is that we are on the ladder, on the road, and that we are as prepared as possible to meet Christ when that time comes, when we see him face to face and we're before him for the particular judgment. That's the important thing.
Absolutely.
And maybe the priest is going to know the maturity of the catechumens and whether they can be involved in debate there or whether that should just be sidelined for a while. That, I think, is up to the priest.
Absolutely. Excellent answer. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to another question here. It's a little more practical question, and I'll handle this one from Peter. He says, is there any way to revisit some of the older catechetical booklets and resources that the OCA produced and perhaps revamp and update them? I have some from the 50s and 60s, and there's some great material to be worth looking into. Okay, so Peter, you can send those to me. Go to orthodoxpittsburgh.org or scan them and send them to me, because I can tell you, and we talked about this in the last program on Monday, we are going to be revising and updating and reformatting the numerous pamphlets that were created by Father John Matuszak of blessed memory. We got the rights back to that from the OCPC, so I was very grateful to them to allow us. St. Vladimir Seminary gave those back to us. So we're going to be putting those out for free. You're not going to have to pay for those anymore. So we are working on that, and that's going to be a wonderful, rich resource for all of the parishes of Orthodox Church in America. All right, here's another one. Jenny says, this is so cool. I personally have struggled a bit with connecting at church and in my journey as a fairly new Orthodox Christian due to being in an intense grief season when the Lord led me into Orthodoxy. So I feel these materials could have been very helpful for me 5 years ago, and even now that I have worked through my grief. God bless you, Jenny. So Dr. Humphrey, do you think that this could also be used by people that are already Orthodox?
Oh, I would hope so. I mean, I think we should be under no illusion that everyone who is Orthodox, even cradle Orthodox, that have been Orthodox for a long time, understand the fullness of the faith. We all are learning. It's rather like what St. John Chrysostom said about the scriptures, that they're like a treasure to find, but they're also like this spring that flows even with waves of water, and it can never be exhausted. And the life in the church is like that as well. After all, it includes the reading of scriptures. It includes understanding how the fathers have interpreted these and how they've spoken wisdom to their own age. It includes living together. It includes understanding how we are in relationship with others. We have all kinds of debates today that are really sound grounding in the tradition and in scripture would help with. How do we deal with ecumenical projects? Should we be involved in them? What do we do with a week like this week when everyone is in polarization and state of suspense? I think that having a grounding is something that is very helpful for everybody, and it can come on the back end after someone has already become a Christian, not necessarily just on the front end.
Indeed. Here is another comment. I'm going to bring that up right now. Bobby says, what are the best, I think it's a question, what are the best resources for someone converting from Roman Catholicism to Orthodoxy? Dr. Humphrey, you're pretty familiar with the books, but
So, I hope our catechism will be one of those.
Absolutely.
Where we do try to speak to Orthodox who are coming from different circumstances. So in my chapter on anaphora, I talk about the difference between various Protestant understandings of what's going on in the Eucharist and Catholic understandings and articulations of that and ours. And I'm sure that all of my colleagues have done the same. It depends on the person. There may be more down manuals, grounded manuals, but I have always found to give someone who is fairly articulate, Father Alexander Schmeemans for the Life of the World is absolutely transforming. And that's true for Protestants as well as Catholics, because what he's presenting is another way, the Orthodox way of understanding the world and understanding who we are and how we worship.
Very good. Very good. We have a couple of more comments here. So Lee Russell, I just tuned in. Is this an ongoing class or is this a new class that is forming? I'm very interested. Converted 3 years ago from a fundamentalist background. So Lee, here's what's going on. We are creating resources that are going to be available to everyone for free. We're building a new adult catechetical program. It's going to be at least 16 hours long, probably will be longer. I would say the sessions are going to be about an hour and a half. It's going to consist of a participant's guide, participant's manual. It's going to consist of a teacher's manual. There are going to be PowerPoint slides. There's going to be a website that is going to point people to resources that are going to be supportive in what they're learning in each particular chapter. And this is going to be all free. But in order to make this happen, we do need your support. What we're asking all of our viewers to do is to consider giving either a one-time gift or an ongoing gift to help develop the resources that we can just provide all kinds of things in the Orthodox Church in America. So we appreciate your support. Here is another question. Bobby says, I love Mary Magdalene. I have much in common with her. What is Orthodoxy's stance on who she was? She might be talking about the idea, was she a prostitute before her conversion, this kind of thing. What can you tell us about Mary Magdalene?
So I also really love Mary Magdalene because that's the name that the saint's name for my oldest granddaughter. And I've actually just had a lot of fun writing about her because I've written a kid's book that'll be coming out next year, and she's one of the chapters. Mary Magdalene, from the Orthodox tradition, we do not specify and say that she was a prostitute, which seems to be more of a Roman Catholic, and from connected with that, various Protestant understandings of who she was. She was the one out of whom the Lord had cast many demons. She was one who followed along with the other women. She was one who became what we call the apostle to the apostles. She cast away the ancestral curse, and she told about the resurrection of Jesus to the men who didn't believe her at first. And so she has a really important function in especially, say, the Gospel of John, but throughout the other Gospels as well. And she stands as someone who was radically transformed by Jesus, who saw him with these eyes, and who put her faith into practice even when she was ridiculed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it very much. The time has flown by. And so if anyone has any other questions, you got to get them in right now because we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. Dr. Humphrey, you had alluded to the chapters that you're writing. Mm-hmm. Could you briefly tell us about the two chapters that you are writing?
Sure. So I am writing on the gospel and I am writing on the anaphora.
So when you say the gospel, what do you mean by that?
So the moment in the liturgy where we enter with the gospel and we read it. And then the sermon that's attached to that, of course, epistle comes into that as well. But under that rubric or under that prompting of the gospel being read, entered with and read, I ask the question, so what is a gospel? And I do a kind of a study of what the Gospels are like and how we have a fourfold witness to Christ and how they are similar and how they are different and how they witness to him and what the church used him for. Then I also ask the question of what is the gospel? And for us as Orthodox, the gospel is a proclamation of Jesus. It's not a how to get saved scheme, as come from evangelicals might think of the gospel, to say the sinner's prayer and so on. It's a proclamation of who Jesus is, and he's in the center. And then moving into the proclamation of that and its application to our life, as the sermon does, I have a section on the transformation that's meant to come as we live our daily lives as Christians.
I love it. And I love the idea that you are actually articulating what is the gospel from the Orthodox point of view, because we're getting mixed messages. We're getting messages from TV preachers and non-denominational churches. And I think sometimes that message is muddled. And so articulating that is very important. What's the other chapter that you're working on?
So the other is on the anaphora. That is the lift up your hearts section, where we actually begin the Eucharist. And in that, I talk about how the Eucharist is the Greek word for thanksgiving. And so at the anaphora, many things are being lifted up. Of course, Christ is being lifted up, and the bread and the wine are going to be lifted up, but also we lift up our voices in thanksgiving. And more than that, we are lifted up so that we actually join with the angels in their adoration and the host of heaven in their adoration of God. So there's a lot of lifting up going on. I talk about the goodness of creation, because part of that beginning prayer is about how God has given us these good things, and we're giving thanks for that. I do talk about the complication of the fall and what that means.
That's very important.
Yeah. And then I talk about, but we differ from, again, say, Reformed Protestants who think that there's a total depravity that's taken place. For us, the creation is still good. For us, the image of God is still visible in human beings. And so though the fall is serious, it hasn't destroyed what God has done. There are things that need to be repaired, and God is in the business of doing that and has done that most decisively through what Christ did. So then I go on and talk about Jesus' sacrifice, Jesus' actions of atonement, differences between our understanding of that and Protestant understanding on one side, and Catholic understanding on the other, and how that is reflected in our understanding of what's going on when the holy mysteries are being sanctified and are being distributed.
Excellent.
I talk about the calling of the Holy Spirit upon the gifts, and what that means when we do that. And again, how there's a difference between simply seeing this as a memorial or understanding it as a mechanical kind of transfer of one thing to another, but that how God is transforming everything that's going on by his Holy Spirit in that worship service, not just the holy gifts, but us as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Edith Humphrey, thank you so much for providing a little bit of a glimpse into the new catechism that is being produced by the Orthodox Church in America and by wonderful writers like yourself. We look forward to the day when this is downloadable by every single parish and every single priest, every single faithful Orthodox Christian. And it's going to be absolutely free, but it's not free to produce. It does cost money to actually produce these things. And so we are asking your support. The Stewards of the Orthodox Church in America Sunday is November 15th. but we'd like you to go to oca.org/stewards right now. If you could give a one-time gift or a recurring gift of any amount, we would be so appreciative, and may God bless and increase your gift so that we can glorify him in the church and grow our parishes. These resources are so important to do that. Dr. Humphrey, any last words before we sign off?
Just how wonderful it is to be able to work with people who care about all of our brothers and sisters knowing as much as they can about the faith.
Thank you, Dr. Humphrey, for all that you do to help us understand the scriptures more and to draw closer to Christ, because it's through this wisdom and knowledge that we can know him, and then we can experience him in the church and receive everything that he has promised for us. Dr. Humphrey, thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
So thank you very much to Dr. Edith Humphrey for talking today about the new adult catechetical program that is being created right now by a dozen wonderful writers and teachers and priests and theologians that are very, very knowledgeable about these things. We feel that it's going to be something that is not static. We're going to want feedback about it when we bring that product out. We're going to want to know all of the different things that are going to be available and that might need to be changed. It is going to be a kind of living, breathing catechism that we're going to want to refine as time goes on. So we're really looking forward to your feedback on this particular project. One last time, I want to encourage you, dear faithful Orthodox Christians, to support the stewards of the Orthodox Church in America. You can do that by going to oca.org/stewards. We'd love for you to be able to pledge a certain amount each month. If you can afford $10 a month or more, please do that. We want you to support your parish first. That is absolutely primary and of most importance, that you support your parish, that you support your priest, that he's paid a wage that allows his family to live without worrying about where the next paycheck is coming from. So we want you to robustly and generously support your parishes. Once you've done that, would you please consider supporting the Orthodox Church in America by becoming a steward and giving a gift of any amount? We greatly appreciate it. So with that, we are going to see you again next Tuesday. We have a very special guest that's coming to speak with us, and that is His Beatitude Metropolitan Tikhon. He is going to be speaking with us live Tuesday, November, and I don't know what the date is. It would be November 10th. He's going to speak to us about the Four Pillars document and his vision for the Orthodox Church in America. What a tremendous opportunity to hear his beatitude speak and actually interact with him. So I want you to tune in. I want you to share out this program and the previous program and share out the news that his beatitude is going to be online, taking your questions, taking your comments, and responding to them. It's going to be a really a wonderful opportunity for all of us to learn about and from his Beatitude Metropolitan Tikhon. So with that, God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to, again, hearing your ideas about new things that need to be developed. What things does your parish need in terms of resources to help it grow? What kind of things can we provide to help the growth of Orthodoxy in America and in Canada and in Mexico? We want those things. We're going to be, as I said, we're going to have a new subdomain, espanol.oca.org. It's going to have all kinds of Spanish language resources on there. Apologetics.oca.org is coming. Music.oca.org is coming. Evangelization.oca.org is coming. So we want you to be able to support those things so that we can grow the ministries of the Orthodox Church in America. May God richly bless you. Go to church this weekend. Worship God. This is the most important thing. Love one another. No, forget about the election. Whatever happens, happens. God is the king. God is in control. And he will have his will done. We have to be able to submit ourselves to his will. So with that, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate everything and all of your support. God bless you.